Hello and welcome. Let me just clear this up. I was just having a bit of a play here. I just wanted to quickly run through observational recording techniques with you for spectroscopy. As you're aware, it's not easy to sort of tell looking at a star, unlike conventional imaging. I mean, unless I told you that was Vega, you wouldn't necessarily know. How would you? Uh, uh, there we are. You wouldn't know necessarily that was Vega unless you dropped it into a processing software like RSpec and found out from its spectrum that it was. But when you're working with an awful lot of stars, just pardon me, sometimes you need something a bit more intuitive to tell one spectrum from the other. And as you can tell, our camera saves file names in very unintuitive fashions. I mean, IMG 20031121 could be anything. So we need something a bit more descriptive than that for recording our spectrum. And what I've come up with after speaking to a couple of people on the subject, some people are recording into a dictaphone the star name with the files that they're using. I suppose that might work for some people. For me, I don't think so because I might need to refer back from one video to the other. It's not one MP3 sorry to the other. It's very cumbersome trying to record things like that when I've got my hands full already. And of course, if I need to refer back to a particular session, which MP file is it? Hard to kind of, it just takes up a lot of time, and I don't think it doesn't work. But anyhow, this is what I use here, and if you take a quick look, you can see I'm looking at Orion, and what I've done is I've sketched out the 7 main stars there that I'm imaging, and what I've done is for argument's sake, I've started off down below here with safe, and I have recorded 3 images of that spectrum, and I've used ISO 200 and a second exposure, and I've used pretty much the same procedure going through Orion. Where it's slightly different if you come to Betelgeuse now is again I've been shooting Betelgeuse, and I've got these image files that represent that. IMG 004, 005, 0016. But I wondered if I could up the ISO to 200 and lower the exposure down slightly. These are hypothetical. I've just put this together because I couldn't find an original one for you, but the same principle applies. So for ISO 200, it's image 007 to 1. I've only taken a couple in other words then of that one, but you get the general idea, and you can sort of if you're just not doing too many, you can just have that region of the sky that you're doing and jot down your notes next to it along with what you're doing. If you're going to be doing a lot more, then what you could do is have IMG 001 hyperscript 1, which could mean ISO 101 second that you've used, and have nomenclature that way. Whichever works for you, but this kind of works for me, this method of recording. And of course I put the date up there, and the scene conditions, pretty much the equipment that you're using, if that's pertinent. I mean, there's no point to keep on recording a DSLR 1000D with an SA100 star analyzer unless you switch equipment between that and the slits maybe. So this is a lot of what I do. The only thing I'll say is because of depending where your camera tends to dump the images, if it dumps it on an external drive, it'll maybe use one number sequence there if you've already been doing it, if you've already been using it for another project. So make sure that maybe you record the location, so maybe C / images, whatever else, because whatever a bit clumsy doing that with the mouse, but if you're using that or maybe a flash drive, then depending on what you've already got in there will depend on the number sequence that you're using, and if you've been doing spectroscopy to both drives, then it will use a different number sequence. So it's pertinent probably to have the location of your images up there as well, so you can refer back to that. But to me, this is easier for the following day when I want to do any imaging. I can just literally, if you want to throw it onto a spreadsheet, you can. But it's easy for me to refer back to which images was I going through. It's a good opportunity to go through checking these images out and to see, what works and where. And and that way at least you can dump off and delete off as you go through. And obviously when you come to processing your data, this handy chart then will tell you which images pertain to that star, so at least you can make sure you're stuck in the correct sequence, processing the correct images, and so on. So I just wanted to introduce you to that, and it's a method that I've not read about it anywhere. It just seemed to me the most pertinent way to do it. We chemists do seem to like to jot down things on pieces of paper, and I suppose any Puritan would say, well, it's only as accurate till that piece of paper gets destroyed. I throw my hands up to that. That's indeed true. I don't know what else you can suggest, and maybe another method might be, what time were you recording say Betelgeuse for, and what time period were you recording safe for? Then that way at least any stars, any images between those time periods belong to those. But if you're trying to optimize the best imaging conditions for either star, then one particular star works for you. You're going to want to know what exposure you took that with. So think, oh, that's a fantastic spectrum. IMG0014 is the best one I've seen of Betelgeuse. Fantastic. What conditions did I use for that? So I can maybe mirror that forward. If you've only got the star name, that's kind of the problem. If you've only got the image file name, you've only really you haven't got that information preserved. At least this way you can come back, you can see what ISO you've used, you can see what exposure you've used, and at least that way you can repeat what you did. Because as we've seen in this course, focusing is very critical. So what we want to get a reasonably nice, decent, unsaturated spectrum that it has the Fraunhofer lines well resolved. That's the challenge, and sometimes you're going to be jumping from one ISO to the other, one exposure time to the other to maximize that. So all you've really got to tell you is what you're using in RSpec, perhaps to sort of say, yes, I took it with that exposure. Oh, very good. I like that spectrum. I can use that spectrum. I will make a note that this is the optimum or best ISO and exposure to use. And that way you can put together a nice little catalogue for yourself if ever you need to come back there, or indeed share the information. So this method to me works quite well, and this is what I've been using for a lot of my spectroscopy work. It hasn't been easy to sort of demonstrate that to you, and I was wondering how best to show it. It seemed to me that just to put a scanned copy of that in doesn't say much, so hence I combined it with a mini podcast for you. So however you choose to record, if you could think of any better method, then please tell me. I'm open to other suggestions, but that's what I use, and I'd like to share that with you, and I hope it's useful for you. Thank you for watching.